Hi, BookTube. It's Gina. Happy Friday. I am having so much fun planning and starting to think about my 2024 reading. Now, you know that I'm not a huge planner. I do tend to be a mood reader, but what I'm going to do this year is I'm going to set aside some piles, some stacks of books that I really want to read from my shelves. I've already done my list of 10 classics that I am going to be choosing from next year. I'm hoping to get to all of them. It's not unreasonable to read one classic a month. I think that's quite doable. And so today I wanted to talk to you about the genre that I'm calling modern classic ladies. Now, this is sort of a mishmash. It's not really a genre. It's just a stack of 20th century women authors that I love. I've got some old favorites on here. I've got some new to me authors. But I do love 20th century female writers. I find that for some reason I just really gravitate towards that time frame. I really enjoy it. So let's just jump right in with the first book being The Sweet Dove Died by Barbara Pym. Barbara Pym is one of my favorite authors. Actually, I think that all of these authors may also be British. So maybe that's something to add to this list. They are 20th century English ladies. But Barbara Pym, I've read quite a bit of her recently. I really enjoy her. This is The Sweet Dove Died. I've got a few more that I may also be pulling from, but this is one that I have not yet read that I would really like to get to this year. Next is D.E. Stevenson. This is Gerald and Elizabeth. Sorry for the glare on this cover. I love these plastic covers, but they do make it hard to get a good picture. This is Gerald and Elizabeth. And D.E. Stevenson is one of my favorite sort of romancy authors. And I love the cover with the houses on the front of this one. And then This Rough Magic by Mary Stewart. Look at that cover. I love Mary Stewart. She is a romantic suspense author. And what I love so much about her is that even though she's suspenseful, I know that she is going to have a very satisfying ending. So I feel very safe in her hands that even if I feel a little anxiety from the suspense, that I know it's going to have a great ending. I'm going to definitely be reading this one in January. I'm doing a buddy read with a friend of that one. Next, so these are three of my favorites authors right now. Next are three authors that I've read in the past, really in the 90s, that I haven't revisited in some time. So I would like to reread the authors. These are three books that I have not yet read. The first is The Debut by Anita Brookner. This is a very slim volume. Anita Brookner oftentimes has quite short books. Anita Brookner is on the, shall we say, dry side, where somebody like Mary Stewart is really on the cozy side. And I would say Barbara Pym is somewhere in the middle, cozy with a bite. So Anita Brookner has a lot of bite. She is dry and doesn't always have happy endings. Barbara Pym is somewhere in the middle. And then we've got some that are very cozy. So I like the spectrum, but I haven't read Anita Brookner in a long time. I've got a big pile. You can't see them, but I own a lot of her books, so I'm going to revisit her. Next is May Sarton. This is Faithful Are the Wounds, and I went through a big May Sarton kick back in the 90s. I really read a lot of her memoirs and diaries, which I love. I love Plant Dreaming Deep and The House by the Sea. Those are my two favorites. I haven't read as much of her fiction, but I really want to revisit this and see if I still love her as much now as I did back in the 90s when I was having a May Sarton crush. And then lastly in this section is The Virgin in the Garden by A.S. Byatt. I have not read this one yet. Again, back in the 90s, A.S. Byatt was one of my favorite authors. I read her Babel Tower and loved it. It was one of my favorite books back then, but I haven't really read her since then. And this is the first in the trilogy. It's this one, Still Life, and Babel Tower. And actually, I think is another one after that has some of the same characters. So we'll see if I still love Anita Brookner. A.S. Byatt. She is very, very literary with a lot of literary references. Sometimes I think she's a little too smart for me. But I'm going to read this one and see if I still love her as much now as I used to when I was a young, rather pretentious English student back in the 90s. So we'll see about that. Then the next section are three really new to me authors that I have not read before. This is Ruby Ferguson. This is a beautiful Persephone edition of Lady Rose and Mrs. Memmary. This book I actually found at Half Price Books. You never find these Persephone editions used. I love these so much. So these authors are all brand new to me. And let's see, this is a Persephone, so I would call this one a modern classic. This was first published in 1937. So I'm excited to get to that one. Next is Tea is So Intoxicating by Mary Essex. This is, what are these British library women? I love, look at that, is a picture or a profile of, not a profile, her head. I forget what the name of that is. But I love this cover. Really love these editions. They've got the French flaps. They're really lovely. I don't know much about this, but I saw this in a bookstore, in a used bookstore, and I had to grab it. Next is The Fountain Overflows by Rebecca West. I own a couple of her books, but I've never actually read anything by her. But look at that cover. Isn't that beautiful? This is a Virago Modern Classic Edition, which I love. And I'm really excited to read some Rebecca West. Let's see if I can see when this one was originally published. Well, the Virago was 2011, 1957. So the first printing of this was 1957. And then another author that I have not read before, Pearl S. Buck. This is Pavilions of Women. Another beautiful cover. Pearl S. Buck was writing a lot. Let's see. This is 1948, so right in the middle of the century. And let's see, this description on the back of this says, Madame Wu was to retire from married life and had planned to select a concubine for her husband. When the difficulties ensued changing her life in the women's quarters, which sounds very interesting. So that is the 10. Now, the 11th, the wild card on here is Young Bar by Jane Fraser, which is a pseudonym of one of my favorite authors, Rosamunde Pilcher. She was writing back in the 50s and 60s these Mills and Boone and Harlequin romances. And this was a Christmas present. These books are quite hard to find now. And a Christmas present, not this year, last year. They're hard to find now. And I love Rosamunde Pilcher. I've read a couple of her other ones that she wrote under the name of Jane Fraser, but I really want to. I'm trying not to. I don't want to read all of them because I don't have a lot left to read from her. This was from 1952, the Mills and Boone edition. Let's see, and this Harlequin edition was 19. My eyes. It's either 63 or 83. No, 83. So it was first published in 1965 and then reprinted in 1983. I look at that. I love these old Harlequin editions. My goal is to just buy every edition of everything that I could find by her. That's going to be difficult. But I do want to read that one. So that is my pile of ladies. I'm super excited to read all of these books, so I hope I get to all of them this year. That is my plan. What are your plans for the year? Are you starting to plan for 2024? We'll see. We'll see what I get to next year, but I'm really enjoying thinking about it and sharing my ideas with you. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.